good day to stay on. Now's your chance.
Hello and welcome back to episode number 74 of the TalkNorwichCity podcast. Delighted to welcome today Benjamin Bloom from the Blue Monday podcast. How you doing, mate? Good to see you. We're in a hotel room again. I always feel
the Linton Travel Tavern.
I always feel slightly odd walking in with a camera, microphones,
and some lube.
led by your flowing locks ahead. Last time we filmed in August, September time. I was living in a hotel in Holborn.
Right.
Now we're here in Leeds. We are filming this ahead of Norwich versus Leeds and also Ipswich versus Sheffield Wednesday. So there could be a slight change.
Yeah, these games haven't happened yet.
Exactly, but league positions will probably be similar to what they were.
Well, I certainly will.
Yes, well, you're not going anywhere at the moment. I've got the squeakiest chair on planet Earth,
Good
so
luck with that.
Apologies for the squeaks.
I had to battle for that chair as well, Jack.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. The room service wouldn't let me have one. I had to go and get one.
Have you paid extra for it?
No. I had to get one from the breakfast room. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
So, last time we spoke, things were very different. It was early on, wasn't it, the first East Anglian Derby?
Six games in?
I think so. And I think you were above us at that point.
No.
It was certainly
Really?
nearly level on points.
Yeah, we hadn't, because obviously we didn't win until like middle of October, but yeah, sorry, go
So
ahead.
without taking up an hour of our time on just this subject, what has gone wrong? Because you're bottom of the table and by quite some distance.
Well, can we just quickly talk about that game?
Yes.
Because that game was absolutely massive. I just had a look back. The sliding doors nature of that game is ridiculous. So, Buendia's debut, first league start, the first time Aarons and Lewis started together.
Max Aarons' debut.
Yeah. And the amazing thing, Jordan Rose kind of sucked a little bit.
Yeah.
What happens in the next game? Pookie goes up front.
Yeah.
And you go on this ridiculous run.
Yeah.
Also, before the game...
Well, Pookie had kind of been playing up until that point, but Farke was playing him on the wing.
Exactly.
Which wasn't working.
And then he goes up front and Stiepermann comes into the team. And it's like it all happened in that game as well. Before the game, Paul Hurst bombs out Białkowski without telling him before the game. And he kind of lost the dressing room by burying all the players after the League Cup game against Exeter. He'd been building up some kind of style and then completely ditched it. Signed Pennington, Walters and Jordan Graham on loan. Yeah. Put them all in the first team. It's like your system crystallised on that day, or the following week you beat Middlesbrough and
that's correct.
Turned into Real Madrid for the next 3 months. And our chaos and carnage of different systems and different players, and pissing off Białkowski and losing Chambers and everybody else in the dressing room. It's like that day we went south and you went north. And the question was what went wrong. Possibly, and I'm prepared to be wrong about this in the future, but it looks like Paul Hurst might be a very good lower division manager with not very good players at getting them fit and playing simple, straightforward football. But whether or not he'll manage above that level in the future, I don't know. It's certainly not a good time.
I mean, it was billed as, I suppose, that game as well. I think you hit the post at 0-0, Knudsen, I think. Walters. You then took the lead, and we felt properly under the cosh. And I can remember going into that game, when you saw the team sheet an hour before kickoff, you thought, wow, Białkowski's been dropped, and Max Aarons, an 18-year-old right-back who'd only ever played under-18 football until that point, was starting.
Remember as well, Jack, Closer went off, and it was Godfrey as well in the second half.
And he should have been sent off as soon as he came on as well.
I don't recall.
He absolutely crunched someone. So it was billed as a new era. Plenty of Ipswich fans have tweeted me the video since of me saying Norwich need to be scared because Ipswich are starting something. And I genuinely believed it. I wouldn't say something I didn't believe. You were signing Caden Jackson, players like this, young, hungry players, and you thought, well, this is what happened when we had that meteoric rise. We were signing young, hungry players. What happened to that era? Because the signings of, James Collins since then has shown that you're not going down the youthful route anymore.
No. I think the argument is that so many things all happened at one time, all happened too soon. I mean, it's never long before we mention him, but obviously the way that McCarthy went and was allowed to run down his contract along with, I think, like something like 13 players or something, then all went at the same time. And then...
Whose fault is that in terms of the player contracts?
I suppose it's the ownership, isn't it? The fact that unless they were assuming some kind of hard reset would actually work, that's got to be from the top, to have your manager go in and then all of those players at once. And then obviously Webster and, we spoke about this on the last one, Webster, Waghorn, McGoldrick, Selina, all the goals from the last year. When I think you can't underestimate how niche and how bespoke McCarthy's football was. I mean, if you...
Bespoke.
But you literally, Jack, Ipswich haven't played with a playmaking midfielder, centre midfielder, for 5 years. They haven't played with fullbacks who have to pass the ball for 5 years. And all of a sudden, you're now completely changing everything. And then all of these players, to quote Paul Lambert, I think they just needed some help. And we had David Johnson on the pod, and he said he just thought it was insanity. And when George Burley did it, it was two at a time in with experienced players, and it's just a total car crash, honestly.
So McCarthy goes. I think everyone probably with a right mind knew that was the right decision. Although he was performing well in terms of if you're not watching Ipswich week in week out, league positions were good,
and then 12th last season.
I mean, that's not
fine,
too bad. It's average, but it's okay. Paul Hurst comes in, had done exceptional at Shrewsbury. Do you think sacking him was the right call? Because it seems like you thought, right, it was never going to be easy what you were trying to achieve. To then go after, was it 3-4 months?
It was 14 games, so he won 1 in 14.
I don't think Lambert's record's any better though, is it?
No, but sometimes you, and I don't want to sound like a deluded Ipswich fan, sometimes it's not just I know football is about the bottom line, the league position and the number of points, etc. But sometimes it's about other things and the bigger picture and where it looks like you're kind of going. I think Hurst kind of made it impossible for himself. It's like he had a 3-year managerial career in 14 games. He brought all his new players in. They all failed. He tried 8 different systems. He tried the softly, then dropping big players, and it was like it all happened so fast. I don't think he left himself anywhere to go.
Do you not think it was a very similar situation 18 months back at Norwich City in terms of going, right, we are resetting, we're hitting the reset button, we're bringing in all of these players who we've never really had before, the types of players, a new manager, a new sporting director. We finished 14th last season, and now suddenly, we'll talk about this in a minute, but do you not think time would have been, a bit of patience would have helped?
Possibly. I think the difference is Farker came in. Did he come in a close season?
Yeah, so he had pretty much the whole summer to make signings.
Yeah, so Hurst did the playoffs and then came in a bit later. When did Webber come in?
He was there before Farker, yeah.
Yeah, I think that might be the key, that you already had the plan and the philosophy kind of set. I think as well, you have to say the difference in Norwich and Ipswich is just for 10 years, you've just had better players than us. So Farker's dealing with, but I know they've recruited really well and bought in good players.
If you look at our financial books, though, they're certainly not pretty reading after.
No.
So I think we're on a. I know, we have.
If Paul Hurst had James Maddison, maybe you'd have been halfway up the table. You don't, know. So Farker had some stuff going in his favour, but I can't say no. You might be right. If they'd have kept Hurst, they might have more points. And I don't know. It was just a car crash.
I'm feeling a slight essence of passive aggression towards Marcus Evans here, and I'm also feeling that from Ipswich Twitter as well. And
right.
Where do you stand with the ownership? I saw his interview with Stuart Watson last week. Probably a little bit too late in terms of trying to cover up the cracks. What's going on there? Is there going to be any budge there? Will there be new ownership? Is that the issue?
There won't be new ownership. No. Who's gonna buy it while they're bottom of the league?
I think he said he'd sell it if the price was right, though, right?
But who's going to give him the right price while they're bottom of the league? No clever businessman with that amount of money. They'll come in and try and undercut him, and he'll say no, and he won't. Doesn't need to sell. He's got plenty of big assets elsewhere. He probably did the right thing in ending it with McCarthy, but he did it in the wrong way. You've seen how brutal Norwich have been. It's like, you remember Alex Neil, right, we're not going up, no, you're out, and someone else gets to come in now, and we sort this out. To let McCarthy run the contract down, run all the players' contracts down, and so he left a really big mess. He was applauded for bringing in a young, hungry manager, but then, I don't know, it was like letting the kid go crazy in Hamleys with mum's black American Express card, wasn't it? If there'd been a Webber figure, Brian Hamilton or Mick Mills above him helping out, maybe that would have been different. So I think he's kind of made the right decisions in the wrong way sometimes. He certainly seems to be a bit closer to it now, which sounds ridiculous to say. Oh, he's actually showing up for work now, and he's actually in the club, because I think McCarthy just did everything for him for that 5-year period. And again, he's obviously throwing a bit of money at wages with Judge and Collins. He seems to be trying to get them out of it, but like you said about the interview, too little too late. Yeah, could well find himself in League One.
It also feels, you talk there about Judge and Collins, and I know they're only 2 players, but if you were going down a certain route in terms of philosophy and culture, and I think the whole culture buzzword is being thrown about a lot in football now, but supporters want more than just what they're seeing on the pitch. They want that good feeling around the club, and that's what's been so good at Norwich. So to then scrap that kind of, right, we're going to really use the academy, and I saw Paul Lambert's press conference this week. He was saying there's so many good young players coming through. To then go and sign Collins seems a bit short term. Yeah, but I guess when you're 7 points adrift,
they've just ditched it, and they've said, particularly with Collins, they've just said, look, let's just put a smart, bruising, tenured Premier League player in here and try and pay him whatever he needs for 3 months or what have you. But yeah, you're totally right.
Does it feel like a point of desperation now?
Yeah, well, it totally is. You're 7 points adrift at the bottom. It is. Yeah, you're right. I can't say no to that.
So Hurst goes, Lambert comes in.
Wow.
Now, I can remember I'd been on an early shift.
Norwich Hall of Famer, Paul Lambert.
Indeed. I'd been on an early shift at work that day. I got home and I had a snooze, and I woke up and my mate had texted me and put, Lambert's going to Ipswich. And I texted back and I said, yeah, good one. Because there hadn't even been any rumours. It just came out of nowhere.
We didn't know.
And it happened it felt like it from first rumour to the picture of him with the scarf or whatever seemed like a matter of hours. I think Norwich fans initially felt a little bit hurt, a little bit betrayed. And then we remembered, because so much had happened, just how messy it had got when Lambert left and went to Villa, took Ian Culverhouse and Gary Carser with him. It felt messy then. When you picked up Lambert, what's that initial feeling like? Because since Norwich, the record's been poor. Yeah. Managerially.
Yeah, and he hasn't hung around anywhere long other than Villa. You had it right. You had it right that they did it in such a way where you didn't have time for the speculation to build. Yeah. So Lambert was at the Ipswich Middlesbrough game while Hurst was still the manager. Wow. So
did Hurst know about this?
I mean, it's a free country. He's a tenured football guy. Yeah. So, I can't say for certain, but I think perhaps they might have spoken before. And you're right. They almost announced that someone from the Sun broke at the same time. We thought Hurst was going the Monday, I think, before he went, and then he managed to lose another 2 games.
I can remember your video in your car, and it seemed rather frantic then. So it came.
It was
so
like
quickly,
run,
didn't
it? Yeah. But then they announced Lambert at the same time. So I think they did that in quite a clever way, because you were reacting to 2 things at the same time. Look, you're bottom of the league. You're ditching your new era and your new system, and football fans, they always go for the best case scenario. So you go, oh, well, okay, Paul Lambert, he's got promotions on his thing, Champions League winning player, fine, we'll take it. We need to. Who else can we get that would be any better than that in our situation? And from our point of view, you kind of, Well, let me ask you. Name me who do you think are the 3 greatest ever Norwich managers?
Well, Lambert would be in there in terms of what he did. And
exactly.
I don't think any Norwich fan will deny that. I think the interesting thing, in having spoke to people who were in and around Lambert at that time, which was so fantastic at Norwich, is how much influence did he actually have? Now, from a coaching point of view, I'm not sure there was as much influence as people thought, but I've spoke to Russ, and he's gone on record and said it, Russ Martin and other people like that, and they said the culture that Lambert created was one where you want to go out there and you will give absolutely everything for the football club. And I think we've seen, haven't we, at Ipswich, with paying for coach travel and bringing legends back, he's trying everything, and that can only be a good thing, because we saw under Hurst, Matt Holland was going on national radio and slagging him off.
For Matt to do that.
That doesn't help you.
Yeah.
And that doesn't help from a fan's perspective as well. So it's going to be fascinating the next 3-4 months, and especially if you go down.
Can I just ask you though, Jack, really quickly? It feels like that narrative, the second Lambert walked in to Ipswich, did that narrative exist before he took over Ipswich?
I think it did.
Or was he a genuine Hall of Famer?
I think it's been that emotion's been heightened somewhat, because when one of your best ever managers goes to your rival, that's going to hurt slightly.
That.
But if you look at his record since Norwich, and especially since Culverhouse and Carza left him, it's not been great. And I know he's taken on really tough jobs, but he's taken them on. There's probably been easier jobs out there for him to take.
Yeah.
But maybe
and he's walked away from them as well, hasn't he?
Indeed.
I don't know, but I want you to be wrong, because if you're wrong, then he's a really good manager, and Ipswich get a really good manager. I feel a bit badly that Norwich fans would, because I mean, I've just had a look doing some research before.
You've done research?
I've done research, yeah. So
first ever guest to do that.
Ken Brown would be won a League Cup and got a promotion. Yeah. Mike Walker took a team that had finished 4th 3 years before to 3rd, and obviously Dave Stringer took you from relegation up to 4th. Nigel Worthington, you'd have to throw in, was really good manager for Norwich. And look, I'm not a Norwich fan, so in the comments, I think it's a pretty good argument that Paul Lambert's your greatest manager ever for what he did.
In my era, people of my age,
there was no competition for your era, is there? But I would feel a bit badly if Norwich fans immediately, it was all Culverhouse. Where's Culverhouse now?
Kings Lynn. He's doing well there, though. He's doing well.
But do you know what I mean?
No, I know.
It's very easy. Everyone builds up their part nicely, and I listened to the podcast with Gary, and obviously you did a great job tiptoeing around all the legal stuff. But I don't know. It's kind of coming out in the wash, but I think it would be a little bit churlish of Norwich fans to admit, he's managed an Ipswich now, it was all Culverhouse.
Yeah. I think the one that probably hurt more, I think Lambert surprised all of us. But when you step back and take a deep breath, you think, okay, I can see how that's happened. Matt Gill coming over and now being Paul Lambert's assistant. Matt was very well respected at Norwich. He's developed, the Jamals, the Max Aarons. He was in and around that setup with Darren Huckabee. So for him to jump the board, he clearly saw a project there, because he's not leaving Norwich City as in a high value position.
What position did he have at Norwich?
He was sort of heading up the academy pretty much.
Right,
so he had a good role. He was respected. He'd seen through the change that Stewart had come in and put in place. So he'd survived that. So for him to go across to Ipswich shows that there must be something there, and there must be promises made, because he's not making that jump easily. So is he the new Gary Carter? I don't know.
I don't know. I just feel a bit uncomfortable with Norwich fans all of a sudden picking holes in this Hall of Fame, potentially greatest ever manager Norwich have ever had.
And I get that, but his record at Ipswich has been abysmal.
Yes, it has.
And facts don't lie.
Can I divide it into three sections? His record in bringing the club back together, this disparate thing where McCarthy would walk out, not even look at the fans, the owner, and then, the famous F-off at Carrow Road.
Still my favourite gif of all time, I think.
If you believe in karma, Mick McCarthy is responsible for the Tim Closer goal, saying... and obviously an owner nowhere near us. So he's done really well. The home record, amazingly, is actually quite good. They... they've won.
How many have you won?
So they've won the 2 games against the rivals, got themselves in winning positions against Bristol City and Mill, and frankly, it was the players collapsing on Lambert, and then a good draw against Sheffield United. The away record is abominably terrible, awful, absolutely bad. So really, yes, you're right. Stats don't lie, and I can't just conveniently take all the away games out. But if he just picks up some points away from home, I know it's if. He's done a lot of good things, but I take the point. But you know as well as I do that, sometimes I do a whole 20 minutes talking about a match on YouTube, and some smart ass comes up and tells me what the shot count is, and I feel like going, okay, mate, forget the 20 minutes and the hour and a half I've just spent watching. You've spent 2 seconds looking at the shot count, and you know better than me. And it's like,
I was probably slightly guilty of that on Twitter myself last week when I saw Lambert come out and say he's sticking to his guns instead of saying that he's really impressed with how they're playing. I think except for the FA Cup game.
Sometimes you do. I can't do his accent. We're playing really well. He said that every press conference. I don't know whether he's got a sports psychologist or some kind of wing, but he's bang on with never getting caught out on saying anything negative. But sometimes you do go, Paul, I know what you're doing, but we were rubbish.
Yeah. I mean, take the Villa game, for example. I know you only lost 2-1 and Freddie Sears scored a screamer. But to say Villa, they were the better team. Villa had 24 shots on goal. I mean, and I know you should have had a penalty, and I know you hit the crossbar.
They should have had a red card, and their penalty was non-existent.
But still, when you have 24 shots on your own goal, there's only going to be one result, I think.
But not necessarily. How many shots did you have at home to Derby?
But over the course of a season.
If you do that every week. But what I would say about the Villa game is, and I would say this, seeing the positive, the goals we conceded are absolutely rubbish.
The penalty was soft.
Yeah, and it's another ridiculous set play when we talked about that in September or whenever, didn't we? I think the thing was we were in the game and we felt a little bit hard done to. And I just always remember Roy Hodgson saying, you can quote me possession, you can quote me XG, you can quote me all of this. How many times...
No way did Roy Hodgson know about expected goals.
No
way.
Okay, you got me on that one. You can give me all the stats, but tell me how many times did their team get through our team behind us and create a good chance? Okay. And that was probably more like...
I cannot believe you're quoting Roy Hodgson. This just shows the levels you've dropped to, mate. Have we really dropped this low?
No, but do you see what I'm saying? Sometimes, but you're right. The table doesn't lie. You're 7 points clear with an inferior goal difference to adrift with an inferior goal difference to Rodham. But I said in my review about that there was improvement, and there was improvement because we've gone to so many other games and not been in the game, and we could have got a draw, away at Villa, and you're going there on the last day of the season, aren't you? So.
Let's talk about the game coming up then. So as I said, we're filming this before we play Leeds, which is this afternoon, and you're playing Sheffield Wednesday. So tables aren't going to change so much, but going into a derby game, that game before can be so crucial, can't it? Because it's the last thing in your mind. So if we go and get crushed by Leeds...
We drew 0-0 at home to Burton last year.
Ahead of the game. Okay. Is that not ideal?
No.
So what's been your take on Norwich this season? Because I think when we spoke in September or late August, whenever it was, we were both feeling like this isn't going very well.
I mean, I've got to fess up. You can find a clip of me saying after the 1-1 draw that I thought both teams would be in the bottom 8.
Did I clip that out? Apologies for outing you.
No, you can find a clip of me saying it.
Right.
Look, come on, all Norwich fans, be honest. It's been absolutely meteoric, the rise, hasn't it? I know there might have been 12, 15 months work. So it's not, like Paul McCartney saying, it took us 7 years to become an overnight success. I know there's work that goes behind it.
But it did feel like that kind of...
It was incredible, wasn't it? And it felt like I said, all of a sudden you got these two brilliant fullbacks. Leitner turns into this deep-lying playmaker who's doing... Stiepermann, who I saw play left-back, who we were mocking, comes in to be this number 10. We knew Hernandez was good. Buendia then gets good. And then Pukki just... ludicrous up front. So it's been just... Imagine being an Ipswich fan where you've got all of this stuff happening at the same time, and then all of a sudden...
So does it feel as bad as we think it feels for you?
It did at first. It's just laughable now.
Is it?
It's just laughable. I walked out of QPR, we just lost 3-0, and you were 3-1 down, and I'm like... Right, there's 91 minutes gone. I was walking back with the great Harry from Bath from my podcast, and Harry's a mild-mannered guy, and I'm watching on Who Scored, and I'm like, Harry, they've got back to 3-2. They're going to draw. It was like, comes through, and you're like, how can this be any worse? How can it possibly be any worse?
So, from an Ipswich fan's point of view then, what are you expecting next Sunday, or this Sunday coming up?
Oh, God. Well, I was at your game versus Birmingham a couple of weeks ago, and you were great. You were really, really, really good. The improvement is just ridiculous. I saw you play at Reading not long, and you were
scraped the 2-1.
You were kind of good, but your words, you kind of scraped the 2-1 due to Reading being quite bad. You could see something building. The football was brilliant. Two centre halves split. Your fullbacks are forward. This is what we were expecting. Your reserve midfielders. It was Rancic and Tribal, who are not Leitner and Tetty, were bossing it. Brendir was really good before he went off. Pookie sniffs the ball in the box and
because
scores.
he's not. Pookie's an interesting one because we've been crying out for this 20 goal a season striker for so long, sort of since Jerome's sort of breakthrough season at Norwich. I say breakthrough, he's like 30 when he broke through that. But Pookie doesn't touch the ball that much, and he's not that involved, but his movement, and as you say, his finishing is extraordinary.
Well, did you see that stat a few weeks ago? It was like where Norwich are physically doing the impossible, where they were in the opposition third for the least amount of time, yet had the most touches in the box.
Really?
So the decisiveness, and we've heard all about the vertical passing, you can where the goal against Sheffield United, where it's sideways in the middle third, and then so little time, but so much, and Hernandez's pace and Buendia's skill, and talk about XG again. Pookie's like 6 goals ahead of where he should be on the XG. His finishing's been just so incredible. So I was sitting there in the Birmingham game, genuinely thinking, if this goes badly, we could have another 5-1 on the. We could get battered if you're on, but it's a derby.
Yeah.
And Norwich, I don't know if it will continue under Farker. Norwich always underperform in the derbies.
We do.
They always get nervous, and was it 5 draws?
Do you think that's because of expectations?
Yeah, because you're the favourites. I mean, let's be honest. Look at the table.
Yeah.
If this wasn't Ipswich, this is an absolute home banker, isn't it? But then again, look at your games against Millwall and Bolton. Yeah. Literally scraped in the...
Yeah, and Rotherham as well. But I know what you mean. If we were playing a Reading or a Bolton Sunday, we were going, right, well, this is an easy 3 points.
Yeah, absolutely. But somehow the nerves and everything... The only argument I've got, which is the most flimsy, pathetic argument, is football is weird.
Yeah,
that's the only argument I've got potentially. But it could be gnarly. But I want to ask you about the police and all that, because I'm worried that, say Norwich are 2-0 up at half time, and then a third goal goes in 75 minutes.
You've thought about this before, haven't you?
I'm just worried.
You're having nightmares.
And the Ipswich fans are already upset, and I'll get your take on it, about having to produce photo ID, no alcohol in the stadium, searches turn up an hour before. So they're already like a wasp. Yeah. And then if the game really goes against them, and all the Norwich fans are, I'm just worried that something might.
Yeah.
What's your view on the policing now, and how you and I think we can get together on this now, are made to feel like criminals when we go to this game? First
of all, I don't think it helps if you go right back to basics here. I don't think it helps Sunday 12 o'clock, because that automatically puts the mindset in the fan is, right, okay, we're not allowed to drink too much before. And I think football fans will drink their set amount if it's a 9 o'clock kickoff in the morning, or you just turn up to
on the
pub
train out of cans before 11.
Exactly. So I think that's ridiculous. And we've played games on a Friday night before. It's happened before. I think from a Norwich fan's perspective, our treatment at Portman Road is never that great.
So just underline this to Ipswich fans. Do you get the same?
So often,
thing?
What will happen is we'll get the train in, and then the positive for Norwich fans, at least we have a pub. That helps, and I think it's wrong that Ipswich fans aren't given that.
Is there one near the ground?
I don't think any pubs are serving Ipswich fans. The ones that were now aren't, because of the damage that happens and stuff. It's understandable, but it means, where do Ipswich fans go? And that's not helpful. No. It's easier to get them get fans in one place and then escort them on. So Norwich fans, we arrive in the train station, there's police horses everywhere. It shouldn't be an aggressive derby with two average sized teams 40 miles apart, but it is what it is. We had to produce photo ID at Portman Road.
Did you get asked to show it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We got searched. I don't think we had to be there an hour before, and I think there was alcohol served. But let's look back at the last time you were at Carrow Road. There was £5,000 worth of damage, which doesn't help your cause. But at the same time, to almost double down and go, right, this is photo ID, blah, 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 that's not ideal, I don't think.
Can I just say about the £5,000 worth of damage, which is reprehensible and ridiculous and unacceptable?
Was a minority?
Yeah, so 4 guys, and they've all been... one of them was 43 years old.
Yeah. Like, get a life, mate.
And they've all been sentenced and arrested and banned. And I think they've got to pay something like £1,000
Yeah,
each
I read the
cost.
Yeah.
Can I just say the policing was terrible.
Okay.
So the game...
The planning or the...
The planning, yeah, you're totally right. So the game finishes... all of a sudden, they're gathering. Oh, we've got to stop you. We've got to stop you. So we haven't been told that we're being stopped. And all of a sudden you get stopped. And I'm at the front of the line... and I probably said this last time on the pod, so sorry if I'm repeating myself. And they're asking their senior officer or whatever what's happening. He doesn't know. They just decided to hold us because of the 95th minute goal or whatever.
Yeah.
And what I know about crowd control is that you need to give people information and they need to know what's happening. And if you don't give them the information and then there's the problem, then you've got to take some kind of blame. This is not Norwich City. This is the police, by the way. So although... yeah, I can't defend people ripping down things. If they're going to keep the Ipswich fans in, they need to tell them as soon as possible.
So is that part of the plan this time? Will you be held?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. But if they're going to be held, just decide it now.
Yeah.
Just say you're going to be held. And for goodness sake, if you're a Norwich fan, just go home.
Yeah.
Don't gather round and, you see the 3 police vans across the back of the Barclays stand. Especially if you win, go home.
I think I mentioned this on the podcast last time, and it is ridiculous that people go to games for a scrap. Like, come on, we're grown adults, and if you're not a grown adult, it's not a great thing to be getting into, scrapping outside football games. The weird thing at Portman Road is, when you come out of the away end and the home fans come out, you're separated for like 200 yards, and then the police are like, right, that's our area done, have a scrap, because then you merge in. That's never going to help. And I don't know what your thoughts are, but when there's such a police presence, you're almost more inclined to be pent up. And I don't know.
Yeah.
When you see coppers everywhere and these security guards, especially in the emotion of a derby, you're more inclined to be...
You're totally... Look, I work in a behaviour school, and we have it all the time where one kid will start on the other if they know there's an adult in the way. Yeah? If there's no, like you say, replace the kids with, I'm not calling all Norwich and Ipswich fans kids, replace them with Norwich and Ipswich fans and replace the adult with the police, and you've got exactly what you just
We need
described.
some kind of mindfulness session at half time. Maybe Delia cooking a little hot pot. Let's calm us all down.
Play that thing on Spotify that helps you go to sleep.
Yeah.
Do you understand my friends who are Ipswich fans going, no, I'm not coming. I'm not being treated like...
I don't enjoy Derby Day.
No. I mean, apart from the feeling sick because of the... That should be the fun bit, though, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
But you understand...
Of course I do, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people going... I mean, Dave, who hosts the pod...
But do you also... Let's get some balance here from a... I know people who are policing on that day. It's a fucking nightmare to try and sort out 27 or 30,000 fans, whatever it is, at Portman Road. That's not easy.
No,
and especially
the
the way that both grounds are laid out. There's not an obvious escape route or whatever. So it's not easy, but it's also been a farce in previous years.
Yeah. I don't know I don't know what the solution is, Jack, but...
let's just be sensible. That's the solution.
That is the solution, but that's not going to happen.
No, I know.
One, you're 27,000 people. There's going to be a lot of those people who are going to make some bad choices. And the second thing is alcohol.
Yeah.
You take your moderate people who normally make good choices and just add alcohol, and all of a sudden they make bad choices.
But I suppose that's our responsibility. The police have banned alcohol sales in the stadium.
Not for Norwich fans.
Not for Norwich fans, but... It's like £5 a pint, so unless you're remortgaging your house, you're not going to get too drunk in the ground. What I was going to ask you, what's the reception going to How do you think the reception is going to be for Lambert?
I don't know, but I've seen an awful article today by Stephen Downs.
He's got reputation.
Yeah,
for provoking.
ridiculous, absolutely ludicrous. I always say this, and I get accused of being a hippie in the comments or whatever. I believe in freedom of speech, as long as it's not vitriolic and hateful. If you want to boo a Hall of Fame manager who could potentially, arguably, be Norwich's greatest ever manager, that's fine. That's absolutely fine, as long as it doesn't get hateful. Whether it helps or not, whether it amps things up, I don't know. But
see, I think you're right there. I think if Lambert wants to be booed, that he thrives off that.
Well, and Jack as well. We said the only chances are football is weird. Ipswich might win. What happens if it turns into a circus? That can only play into Ipswich's hands, can't it? And Norwich should be winning this game. But you could turn it into the Paul Lambert show, which might deflect away from the fact that Norwich are a better team than Ipswich. I don't know. If Norwich fans feel comfortable with booing Lambert, then go ahead, and I suspect they probably will.
Yeah. Let's get into some Twitter questions. Now, we put the tweet out yesterday. I haven't actually looked through any of these yet, which is dangerous.
Real-time vetting with Jack Reed.
That's not ideal, is it? Because we know there's going to be some juicy ones in here. Let's start with Maxim Calver. Why is there such a positive fans' reaction to Paul Lambert, even though you're no closer to survival with him in charge?
I think we've done that, haven't we? I think it's the connection between manager and fan that hasn't been there for 5 years, and the feeling of community, which some may argue is more important than the results. Why do we go? Do we go to see scabby 1-0 win, or do we go to see our mates and have fun together? So it might just be that.
I know Lambert has pretty much said that he will stay even if you go down. Do you think he means that?
You don't believe him, do you?
No, I'm not saying I don't believe him. I just think there will have to be a lot of promises made from people above him for him to stay.
I don't know. I hope he's follow throughs with what he says, but never say never. He walked out of Wolves and he walked out of Blackburn, but I hope
thought
not.
that was going to be a resounding yes, he is staying. I didn't expect.
Never say never. I don't want to come on here and say he's definitely staying, and then there's some, we saw Martin O'Neill in '95 slam his papers down and walk out of Norwich, fall out with Robert Chase. So.
Fair enough. Tim Pashley says, Dear Jack, just how bad would it be to lose this particular game? Best wishes, Tim. So, as we've said, if you look at league positions, we should be winning this game easily. And we're in a position now where automatic promotion is an option.
And we don't know the Leeds Norwich result.
No, we don't. But we've had a tough sort of month, and the form shows that I think we've only had one win in 4 or one win in 5, something.
All the top teams.
Yeah. So if we can avoid defeat against Leeds, I think that's a pretty good run. And then it's Ipswich, and then we've got fairly easy. I say easy in a very loose term because you never know in this league what will happen. A fairly easy run. This game, I don't think it means as much to the players as it does us, because not many of them have experienced these derby games
German,
before.
Aren't they, Jack?
Exactly. So to them, they've played in bigger derby games, most of them. This isn't going to be that much of a big deal for them. So I'm hoping that will mean we just play our game, we settle into it, happy days. If we lose it, I genuinely don't think it's going to affect Norwich that much. I think it will take a hit to the fans, of course it will. But I don't think Farke will be too thrown off.
If you, just a quick aside, if you didn't make... Let's be honest, Norwich are going to get in the playoffs minimum. Now they'd have to be awful for the rest of the season.
But we've spoke already.
How do you think they would go in a playoff game? The open flowing football, say against a Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I mean, from a fan's point of view, we don't want playoffs because the way we done it last time was perfect in terms of beating you and sweeping Middlesbrough side with ease. I don't know. I don't think Derby have looked that good all season.
They could drop out today. Again, we don't know the results.
Borough, we beat them. I don't think they've looked that great. I think Sheffield United, for me, are the best team in the division. Leeds could always drop out. They look strong.
West Brom finishing power as well.
West Brom are a good side. So it's not going to be easy. But you also look at the division and think, well, top 2 should be the goal now, because there isn't a runaway team.
There's no Wolves.
There isn't a Wolves. There isn't a Newcastle. this division is easier this year than it has been in previous years for a top 6 side.
I think it will be 85, might even get second, 86. It won't be. I don't think Leeds or Norwich will get 92 points. I don't think either of them will get 2 points per game. And I don't think the champions will get. So it's a chance, isn't it?
There is a real chance. But a win against Ipswich would of course help. I honestly don't think, and I'm not just saying this, I don't think it would be that much of a big deal. But it would hurt.
No.
But I think you'd pick yourselves up and go again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's worth saying, I've said all season, I think Norwich are still overachieving, and I think
massively.
I think there will be a slump at some point. But if you would have said, would you scrape 6th place, I would be biting your hand off. So,
after the 1-1 draw at Ipswich.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's crazy. Let's have a look. Cameron, question for Ben. Last year you said about banter between fans in the grounds, saying about fighting each other outside. My question for you is, will you be getting in any scraps this year?
No, I won't be getting in.
I bet you've got a decent right hook on you, haven't you?
No.
Would you back yourself in a fight?
Absolutely not. No. The point I think Cameron's taken the mickey out of is just when people look across the stand and go, no, 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 and then the other guy does that, no. They have their little moment, and then it's like, okay, great. Although I might go in disguise for the walk back.
Mate, you're the most loved person.
No, I did get recognised at the Birmingham game and got a bit of stick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What? Not like.
No, good humoured stick, but I think my hair might be going up and a hat might be going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I suppose though, if we flip this and if Chris went and sat in an Ipswich section,
you cannot compare my actions online to Chris's. No, Jack, I'm not having it. How's Chris, by the way?
He's very well, and he's thoroughly looking
coming up
forward.
today?
He's not, no. But he's thoroughly looking forward to the Derby game.
I'm sure he is.
He's told me to say hello to all of the Ipswich fans. So, hello from Chris.
Just a thing, if West Brom pip Norwich by 1 point, will Chris issue a public apology for going and supporting West Brom?
Do you know the story
Ipswich?
of this?
You got tickets from Wes Houlihan.
So Wes sorted him out with the tickets.
He's going to look ridiculous if they pip you, though, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. What was the score? Was it 0-0?
It was 2-1, and we
2-1, was
it was a weird one because we were somehow still in the game at the end. And Jack Lancaster actually last kick of the game whipped it. Actually could have drawn against West Brom.
Yeah,
but
it is entirely Chris's fault if we don't go up this season.
Chris is responsible for Dwight Gale being good at football.
Indeed. Erica Barnes says, when can we expect the Battle of the Podcasts 5-a-side match, #Team Reeve versus #Team Bloom, with the loser doing a podcast in an opposition football shirt, #Let's make it happen. Michael Smith then returned and said, TNC simply don't want it. David Diamond?
Yeah.
David Diamond can play with either foot.
David has also had...
He's a good player.
But he was.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 20 years older than me. So
Okay.
he's probably the best player out of all of us in his prime, but I think he might be in a managerial role.
Would you fancy it? Would you back yourselves against us boys?
If we could make some money for some good cause or something, yes, but it's gonna be... I think Mikey's quite good.
Okay.
But you lot are quite young, aren't you?
I mean, Chris is hopeless, so he can be a coach.
Chris will clean me out within like 30 seconds.
I tell you what,
it'll be like DT and Goldbridge, won't it? He'll just absolutely side me down within 2 seconds.
Team DP, aren't they calling DT now? I think. If anyone wants a charity 5-a-side match, let's get this podcast to 200 likes, and we'll see what we can do.
Can I just say, when I went to Norwich Reading, I tweeted that I was going, and that guy, they actually bought me dinner.
Really?
Yeah. So
amazing. Top boys.
Norwich fans and Ipswich fans can't get on, but yeah.
And you didn't have any sort of food poisoning or anything?
No.
Amazing.
No.
Was it a nice dinner? What did you have?
Some like gourmet burger kitchen thing like that. Yeah.
Splashing the cash.
Yeah.
To be fair, them boys bought me a pint after we beat Sheffield Wednesday 4-0.
Got dinner, so standards, Jack.
Let's see what question. There's a lot we can't include. Wonder which one of the Norwich grades. Yeah. Okay, Peter Hartley. I'm going to slightly rephrase this into another question. Benjamin is a top lad. Which one of the Norwich players does he like the most?
What, in the current team?
Yeah.
A few of them, actually. Aaron's has probably just got the edge over Lewis, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Leitner, I do love a deep line playmaker. So Leitner, I like that style of player.
Because you're a hipster, aren't you?
Purely because we haven't had one for a while. Buendia.
Yeah.
It's funny, like you say about Pookie though, because he's got the Ian Wright thing. All he does is score.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I like a number 10 or whatever. I really liked Madison.
Yeah.
You know,
he was a step above.
Yeah. But you're way better without him. Second in the league, aren't you? So yeah, there's a few excellent. But Hernandez looks like a championship beast, but might not have it up there for the Premier League. So
I suppose the question is now, we've done this, I think, on every podcast before, and you've always sneaked a few Ipswich players in. Is there any Ipswich players that could get into the Norwich team at the moment?
Well, Krull over Białkowski, because Białkowski's had a terrible season, hasn't he? Aarons and Lewis, definitely. Closer and Zimmerman versus Chambers. And the
How many fist pumps has Chambers made this year? Is he doing them for draws yet? Or?
I think he might have stopped doing them.
No.
Doesn't a Norwich player do those?
Pumps?
There's something happens at the end of the game.
Farker goes up to the Barclay now.
Oh, okay.
But
I definitely heard it. Yeah. When I was walking out of the Birmingham game. I'm not sure. Maybe Alan Judge might, if he gets back to anywhere near he was in 2016 in the row of three. I don't. Possibly not. No, there's no Waghorn.
No.
There's no Webster. There's no Selena. There's no McGoldrick, who we were all trying to push last year. And obviously Białkowski's had the worst season of his life. So.
Peaky asks, "Hi Ben, love the championship reviews, mate. Stellar work. However, is there a ground in the league you haven't done yet, so the championship? And also, what is your favourite stadium in the league and why?"
Haven't done Wigan, but I'm going next month. Sounds exciting, Jack, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So I've done all the rest other than
Glamorous
Wigan.
life you lead, my friend.
It's the cliched answer. It's got to be Villa, Forest and Leeds for the away grounds. Just the big ones. Villa, where you see the writing from the European Cup. Forest, you get the Brian Clough video beforehand. And Leeds, despite, as you'll find out today, despite being slightly the most one-eyed supporters that you might ever meet, they... Wait for the scarves and wait for the Sky TV is effing on about 10 minutes, which should be quite funny today.
When we played Nottingham Forest earlier in the season, I think it was like when the nights were starting to draw in a bit and the sun was so low and I couldn't see any of the game. The sun was really in your eyes. So we still won though.
Smug. Jack Reeve.
Beckles, ITFC, reinforcing your point, I think. Lambert's PR is perfect. He's reunited the fans together. I watched grown men supporting the same team kick lumps out of each other after a game. I suppose this was before Lambert. Lambert's made us feel proud again. So fair enough. If Lambert's doing that, then he's doing...
London away games under McCarthy were...
Really?
Oh, no, they weren't.
Why
good.
London games? You get a certain group of fans.
You get a certain group of fans. Everyone goes on the tube and drinks.
What is it with the tube making people feel aggressive? I mean, Central Line at rush hour is a nightmare.
You can imagine the tube would make anyone feel aggressive, Jack, can't you? You've done that commute enough times, haven't you? Yeah.
Okay.
Not good.
Right, let's see what this one says. Okay. Willamot's Limited. Good.
Don't we do applause for Willamot's?
Yeah, we do actually. Okay. So welcome back. Although his questions have slightly veered away in recent weeks, but when you're producing football pitches as well maintained as that, this man deserves a knighthood in my opinion. Willamot's, good to have you back, my friend. He says, "Hi lads."
Literally my favourite bit of it. Your
Mick McCarthy, Paul Hurst, Paul Lambert. Which one of these managers would you choose to take you out of the Championship next year?
Out of the Championship?
So he's saying you're going to survive and get promoted.
Oh my God.
Willamot's is an optimistic guy. Who would you be happiest for?
Paul Lambert, I guess.
Okay, good. Must say Benjamin is the only fan from down the road who's actually worth listening to.
Oh no.
Keep up the good work.
There's plenty of lovely Ipswich fans, Jack. Come on.
Plenty. How are we defining plenty?
Literally name them on.
I'll tell you what. This is another fantastic. We always have a Bristol Rovers fan tune in.
Okay.
So Bristol Rovers polls. We're going to give you a round of applause this week as well for your commitment. Thank you. I'm just going to check out what the latest Bristol Rovers score was actually, just to make you feel included in this.
Marcus Stewart is now no longer working at Bristol Rovers. Sadly.
Oh.
My all-time favourite Ipswich Town player.
Sad.
So very, very sad.
Let's see how great. Let's see how they got on last week. A 2-2 draw with Peterborough. And a 3-0 win against Port Vale before that. They're flying Bristol Rovers.
The gas heads.
Yes. This is a question for Benjamin Bloom, Bristol Rovers poll says. What has Ellison Harrison been like for Ipswich this season?
He looked quite promising.
Is he from Bristol Rovers?
Yeah, he signed him from one of our many lower division signings for inflated prices this season. He looked quite promising to begin with. Under Hurst, he was like up front on his own, struggled a lot. Then he got hurt and he was out of the team. And then Lambert arrived, scored a really good goal against Sheffield United. I think there's something there, but it's not a nice team to be cutting your teeth in when you've come up from the division. So Will Keane or Colin Quainer will probably be ahead of him on Sunday. Interesting.
Final question is from Michael Gooding. He says, is Chris Reeves still a tool? Chris,
can you answer that one?
Well, Chris was saying to me actually that his bills have gone down recently, and he didn't know why. And then he realised that he's been living rent-free inside of Ipswich Town fans' heads all season.
Did you have that one planned? Did you plan that on the way out?
No, I didn't. This is the quick wit of me. No, Chris is fine. And as I said, very much looking forward to the Derby game. We sit right next to the away fans, so you'll see him.
You can see Jack and Chris. If you just look by the wall, what about
there's a little post.
5 rows up.
Pick us out.
Jack did applaud the Bobby Robson minute.
Of course,
last time as well, because I looked straight.
I think all Norwich fans did.
I think they did. So yeah, look out for Jack.
I don't know what I'll be applauding this time.
Jack, is this the last time we're going to be doing this?
Yes.
For how many years?
I don't know whether it's because we go up and you go down, or just you go down.
We might well be good at keeping our end of that bargain up.
Yeah.
But potentially could be 2 divisions or 1 division apart, and we might not have any need to be on the Talk Norwich City show.
We'll find a way.
Yeah.
I think we'll find a way. Definitely. Final kind of thoughts for this weekend then. How did you see it panning out through the past hour of knowledge that we've spouted?
Knowledge. You go with the cliche sometimes where it'll either be 5-0 to you or we'll shithouse the 1-0 at the every metric, every statistic you can find says home win, doesn't it? And the only argument I've got is football is weird.
Is football weird enough for you to win? Or get something from it?
Possibly. You might get a red card after 2 minutes.
Yeah. I think this... I've listened to you a lot this season, and you've often said once one goal goes in away from home... There's always a second following. I think Stuart Watson tweeted it against Villa. I've seen the first goal. Will there be a second? And then the next tweet was 2-0 Villa. So do you think if there's an early goal in this for Norwich, it could be a one-way street?
At the moment, for Ipswich to win an away game, they either A, have to keep a clean sheet, or B, score 3 goals.
Okay. How many away games have you won this season?
1.
Against?
3-2 at Swansea. So still conceded the 2 goals in that. And here's the killer stat. It's now 14 straight games away from home. Ipswich have conceded 2 or more goals.
Wow. Okay.
So they're not going to keep a clean sheet.
And the one thing Norwich can do is score goals. Yeah. So we can't defend, but we can score. So let's hope.
Football is weird.
Yeah. Indeed. I think it'll be closer than people expect.
Is Leitner's back training on Wednesday?
That's going to be a make, and you sort of right up to the. I don't think he'll risk Leitner.
No.
He has been our biggest miss. Definitely been our biggest miss since he's been out injured, and I think there's been a certain pattern with him getting injured and a slight dip in form. So it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting. Great to have you on, mate.
As always,
go and check out the Blue Monday podcast on YouTube and iTunes as well.
Acast, all over the place. And if you want a less biased review of today's game, Norwich versus Leeds. Yes.
Why are you coming to the game? Just to see some good football for once?
I've seen plenty of good football. I've seen plenty of good football.
Not Road.
We still Sheffield United there. No, obviously I get a lot of heat from Ipswich fans whenever I happen to be at a Norwich game. But we're businessmen, and the opportunities this week were up north, so I spent the whole weekend up here. I am Ipswich through and through, but there is a heavy championship, side to my output. So yeah, I'm at Leeds Norwich today, but please don't give me stick for it.
Links all in the description. Go and check it out. Well worth your time. We'll see you on Sunday for the big one, the East Anglian Derby.